Hey everybody, so in today's video we're talking about end behaviors, okay? So we're going to be starting our unit on graphing polynomials, and before we do that we got to talk about some features of the graphs. So today we're going to just focus on end behaviors. So what are end behaviors? Well, they describe where the graph is coming from and where it's going to. You can kind of think of it as like domain and range, looking at the left side of the graph and you're looking at the right side of the graph. We write it differently though, so it's not exactly the same, but it's very close. Okay, so end behaviors describes the far left and the far right portions of the graph. A more mathematical definition is the behavior of the graph as x approaches positive infinity and negative infinity. So what's happening to the graph as x goes to positive infinity, and what's happening to the graph as x goes to negative infinity. Okay, so let's break this down. And we're going to be analyzing graphs and equations, but let's first start with graphs. So here we have a polynomial, okay? And I literally don't care what happens in the middle. I have no desire today, okay? But what happens in the middle. We're only focusing on the ends of the graph. So what I like to ask myself, or the way I write this as, so as x approaches positive infinity, okay? I'm just putting an arrow. You don't have to write out the full sentence, but that's what that means. As x approaches positive infinity, what happens to the graph? That's the question you're answering. So as x goes to positive infinity, excuse me. So all of these numbers here are positive. That's positive 1. It's positive 3 or 4, whatever, okay? This is positive 10. These are all positive. So as x is approaching positive infinity, it's eventually going to head over here, okay? X is eventually going to go this way, right? It's just going to curve up here, and it's eventually going to hit all of these positive values. What happens to the y? Well, the y is also positive. All of these values are positive for y. So while there's a positive value up here for x, there's a positive value for y. So y goes to positive infinity as well. Okay? So let me erase. So these x values here are all getting positive. Now it looks like x stops here, but because it goes to the end of the graph, there's an arrow and it's slowly still curving, right? It's slowed down. Here was a, real quick, but now it's real slow, but it's still headed to positive infinity. What happens to y? It's also going to positive infinity. Okay? And then we got to do the other direction. So as x goes to negative infinity, and yes, I know I can't draw infinity signs. Deal with it, okay? You've already known this about me. I can't do infinity signs. So as x goes to negative infinity, okay? So now we're just doing the other side of the graph. So we're just flipping this way. As x hits all of these values here, where's y at? Well, it's up here in quadrant 2. All of these values are positive for y, so y is also going to be positive, okay? Those are the end behaviors, and that's what your answer would be when asked to describe end behaviors. As x approaches positive infinity, what happens to y? As x approaches negative infinity. Okay, let's do another one. So let's look at this one. So, as x goes to negative infinity, it doesn't matter the order. We could do negative first. We want to figure out what's happening to y. Okay. So I'm looking this way. This is negative x. All of these values are negative for x. This is negative 1, negative 5, negative 10. What happens to y? Well, the graph is down here, and it's headed this way in quadrant 3. So all of these values are negative for y, so it's headed to negative infinity. Okay? And then the other side, we're now looking this way. As x goes to positive infinity, what happens to y? All of these values are positive. So y goes to positive infinity. Okay, it's another one. So as x goes to positive infinity, again, doesn't matter where you start with. So as x heads this way, what happens to y? Well, y is going down now. So all of these values are going down. So y is negative infinity. Okay? And as x approaches negative infinity, so negative infinity is this way for x. What happens to y? Y is up here. So those are positive values for y. So that's positive infinity. And the very last one for the graphs, okay? As x goes to negative infinity, so this way, as x heads this way, what happens to y? Y is headed down. So that means y is headed to negative infinity. I know I can't draw infinity signs, whatever. And as x goes to positive infinity, so as x is headed this way, what happens to y? Oh, look, it's also headed down. So y is headed to negative infinity. So it's kind of like we're taking domain and range and putting them together a little bit, okay? So that's how to analyze it from the graph. So today, that's all you're going to be doing is just analyzing different graphs and their end behaviors. Bye, guys.